What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. Hope you guys are still doing well, or you're doing well now if you weren't doing well earlier. And we got to talk a little bit more about yesterday's minicamp session because there is one thing that I didn't discuss in the previous video that certainly should be discussed if you're talking about the Seahawks minicamp, because I wanted this to be its own video because there's actually quite a bit of detail here from Corbin. Corbin went on a little bit of a tweet spree yesterday talking about this, and I want to go over the stuff that he said because this is big. This could be big, and by no means, and let me just say this right now, by no means am I saying that we're good now or that everything is cool now or that things have been resolved or that the situation is now completely good. Like, we are a long way away from that. But I do want to talk about this because I've been hard on this guy. We're talking about Jalen Milroe in this video, and I've been hard on this guy, and I think I've given some very compelling reasons why I've been so hard on him and why I've been so discouraged by that usage of a draft pick in the 2025 draft. But I do want to talk about this too because so far things are going well. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot when we're talking about OTAs and mini camps, but it's all we have to go on right now. So I want to spend a little bit of time on this because this is big, right? Like, Jalen Milroe will probably, and maybe it won't quite get to this point, but I do believe that a big part of Schneider's future in Seattle is tied up in what Milroe does. I know he was just a third-round pick, but I do think that whether or not Milroe ends up being what Schneider thinks he will be determines whether or not he's going to stick around. So, yeah, let's just go ahead and get right to it here. He, according to multiple people, Corbin Smith, chief among them, but we had some other people like Greg Bell echo this sentiment. Jalen Milroe looked really good these last couple of days, and these statements are coming from people who thought Milroe looked awful to start the OTAs, and I think also looked pretty bad in the rookie minicamp. Not that that necessarily means anything because it's literally the first thing that he's doing. But these are people who were very critical of Milroe. Maybe not critical, but down on him in the sense that he just didn't look good. Not that they're saying, oh, this guy's obviously terrible now and this is unacceptable. But I think you guys know what I'm saying, right? You can be down on a player without being out on the player, right? But these same people that were critical previously are now saying, hey, he has made big strides. He has improved massively. We are seeing some very encouraging things. So we got a tweet like this. Another strong day for Milroe, who closed out this offseason program playing with great confidence. And Corbin, by the way, is now writing for an independent website. It's called Emerald City Spectrum. So check that out if you have time, if you're into Seattle sports. I think they cover all the teams over there, by the way, even like the rugby team, the Seawolves. They cover the WNBA. They cover hockey. They do a little bit of pretty much everything in Seattle sports. So Emerald City Spectrum, check him out. But some of the stuff that he talked about outside of his website was just talking about how far Milroe has come and how confident he looked in the minicamp session yesterday. And also, remember, there were also positive things said about him the previous day, the Tuesday. So this is coming from people who are worth listening to. And Corbin Smith tends to be a pretty positive person in general, but I don't think he would spend this much time talking about something if there was no merit to it. He's talking about this stuff because he's seen genuine improvement and some reason for optimism. And the reason why I wanted to branch off into a separate video talking about this is because Corbin also went into length about what might be the change why he might be looking good, why he might be looking better than he did even a couple weeks ago. So I want to go through these tweet threads here. Already seen marked improvement with Jalen Milroe cleaning up lower body mechanics. He's been throwing with a wider base, and the accuracy improvements have been quite noticeable. So when I made all those videos earlier this offseason about Milroe from watching his games in college, one thing I noticed was I just didn't like the way he set his feet. I didn't like the way that he was positioning himself going into throws. I didn't like the way any of that stuff looked, and I thought that was part of the reason why he was having accuracy issues. So this is kind of directly addressing that kind of stuff, and it has an effect on your accuracy. So the fact that we're here in the mini camp of year one and we're already hearing concrete statements from people that this stuff is getting better is extremely encouraging. These issues were far more noticeable, at least for me, in the short to intermediate game on Milroe's Bama tape from 2024. Remember, 2024, when he was playing for Alabama, he was worse than he was in 2023 as a passer. As a runner, maybe not, but as a passer, he had worse numbers across the board. Now, some of that was because he didn't have Jermaine Burton. I think Alabama's offensive line wasn't playing as good as people expected, and he was learning a new offense, but that new offense also should have been an opportunity for him to show something a little bit more substantial than what he ended up showing, because I know DeBoer may not be the greatest fit for Milroe, but at the same time, look what DeBoer's system did for Michael Penix. Michael Penix was not an overly well-known player, and he came to DeBoer's system in Seattle with some talent around him, and he almost won the Heisman. So to hear stuff like this, quite encouraged watching him fire touchdowns on a curl and slant route in the quick passing game today. Great zip on the ball with accuracy and timing. And that is one thing from even his college tape that you notice. He does put zip on the ball, and he does get the ball out with pretty good timing, I think. But the accuracy part of this is notable. Now, again, it's minicamp. He's not facing defense going at full speed. He's not even having to really worry about contact. This is easy mode. This doesn't mean that everything's cool now, but the fact that you're seeing improvement, and you're seeing improvement in this area that he clearly needs to improve in, because, again, I want to stress, I went through some of his tape from college, and I was like, I don't like the way this guy's lower body is positioned, and I think that's why these throws are bad. And to see it already getting addressed is really encouraging. And he had this little comp here, which, I mean, it's not the greatest picture in the world on the left, admittedly. Wish I had the same angle on both shots, but the throw by Milroe on the left at the Senior Bowl was airmailed over a receiver's head, and he had a far more narrow base without the drive. And then you've got this kind of contrasting picture over on the right side where it does seem to look a little bit better. I don't want to read too much into this, though, because we are talking about, I mean, this picture, it's kind of hard to see much of anything, but I do think you can get an idea of what might be just a little bit different here. So we're seeing the fruits of Milroe's effort, right? Because there's been a lot said this offseason about how Milroe is putting in the work. And I think Jordan Palmer's is helping him. Seems like it's paying off. So there was more discussion about this. Corbin continued to talk about how the improvement has been very noticeable since rookie minicamp. Those 2 days, the rookie minicamp days, he had several passes that sailed on him or were thrown behind targets. Last 3-4 practices, he's been on the money mostly. Even the incompletions have been pretty decent passes. This is in reply to somebody talking about how you've already seen marked progress from May to June, and that is great. Now, I still think that you're looking at a multi-year process with getting Milroe up to speed to play in the NFL effectively at quarterback. But if he continues to grow at this level, maybe it's not 2 years, maybe it's 1 year. And maybe that only matters if Darnold doesn't play well. So maybe it's not even totally in his hands, but it would certainly be better if he's able to pick this stuff up faster than slower, right? I mean, like, how can that be possibly bad? Here's the thing with throwing mechanics. It's not easy to refine them, but speaking with several quarterbacks over the years, small tweaks to the lower body are easier to pull off than the upper body slash throwing motion. So that leg thing, that where you're just the way in which your base is positioned when you're throwing, that's kind of what he's talking about here and saying that's a little bit easier to fix. Now, there are other issues here, like the way he throws the ball kind of makes me wince every time I see it. And one thing he's saying here is that it's not going to be so easy to fix something like that. Like Hawk's Nest has a saying he likes, looks like he's throwing a cinder block when he throws the ball. So that may not be fixable, but maybe you can live with that. Maybe that's something that you can play through and it's not the end of the world. So the lower body tweak looks like it's coming in here. And all it takes is something being slightly off to make a throw misfire. Mechanical flaws can be very subtle but have a huge impact. So it is notable that he was at Alabama for several years. He only was a starter for the last two, and they weren't able to fix this. But one thing that Corbin is talking about here is that sometimes it's hard to find the problem. And maybe it just took until now to find the problem and start to work to address it. So, I mean, it's a good sign. That's really all you can say right now. It's not going to mean anything if he's the starting quarterback for the Seahawks in 2 years. We're going to go based off of what we see then. It's not going to be like, oh, he improved really quickly 2 years ago in the offseason. It's going to be, okay, what are you doing for me on the field? But we're 2 years away from that potentially being anything. So right now, this is what we have to work with. And what we have to work with, I mean, it's better than hearing the alternative, right? All right. See you guys later. Go Hawks.